Today I want to discuss some of the most dangerous myths about tax sale investing you've probably seen floating around the internet. First off, before we get started, my name is Denman. I'm the host of the Tax Sale Podcast, founder of the Tax Sale Academy, author of the Tax Sale Playbook, and 23 plus year tax sale veteran. Now, if you've spent any time on YouTube, TikTok, or maybe even just chatting with friends about tax sales, you've probably heard some pretty wild claims. Some of them even sound pretty good, and you might have believed them. The truth is, there's a lot of myths floating around about this business, and if you believe them, they can sometimes cost you real money, real time, and real frustration. So today I want to break down the 10 most dangerous myths about tax sale investing. My goal here is simple. I want to help you avoid falling for the hype and instead understand the reality of how this business actually works. Number one, if I buy at a tax sale, I'll get stuck with the mortgage. This is hands down the number one fear that I hear. In fact, I actually heard Dave Ramsey tell everybody this on one of his recent shows. And I get it. Nobody wants to buy a property only to find out they just inherited a $200,000 mortgage along with that property. Here's the truth. Property taxes are senior liens. What this means is they sit in the first position. When those tax liens are foreclosed, it extinguishes the mortgages and other private party liens. They are wiped out. They're not your responsibility. Think about it logically here, right? Why would the government, who gets those property taxes, why would the government write the law that has mortgage companies protected but not themselves? It doesn't make any sense, right? So instead, it's written that the government is protected first, so they can provide all the things like fire, rescue, law enforcement, schools, roads, bridges, all that good stuff, and then the mortgage companies come in second. Now, the only exception to that, to keep in mind, is federal liens like IRS liens, which have a shorter redemption period, and county liens, like code enforcement liens, which will stay with the property until you take care of them. So you are not buying somebody else's mortgage debt. Number two, tax sales are a way to get rich with $100 houses. We've all seen the hype videos, right? Buy this house for $200, get a mansion for $500. I've got a few videos like that myself. Here's the reality, however. Bargains do exist, but most properties on tax sale lists are there for a reason. They're often undesirable, landlocked, or they need significant work. Success in this business does not come from chasing fairy tale deals. Yes, you can absolutely make money. Yes, there are fantastic deals. Yes, there's very cheap homes, but those take a lot of research. They take a lot of patience. They take a lot of strategy. And most importantly, they take being in the right place at the right time. There's a lot of good deals out there to make money with, but don't expect $100 homes. Myth number three, the government guarantees you'll make money with tax liens. This one drives me crazy. I've even seen it advertised like a savings bond with a guaranteed return. Here's the truth. With liens, you only make money if the property owner redeems and pays off the back due taxes. And subsequently, you would be returned your money plus interest. Now, there are certain lien systems where you can actually not even get all of your money back in certain premium tax lien states. Now, in a situation where they don't redeem, you're not automatically paid. You may have to foreclose that property, and that property might not even be one that you want. There is opportunity, yes, but like any investment, there's risk, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Don't let anybody sell you on the idea that it is a government-backed guarantee. Yes, the process is backed by state statutes, but I can assure you there's nothing written in the state statutes about your money. Myth number four, all tax sales work the same everywhere. Not even close. People will argue on YouTube and say, that's not how it works. Well, what happens in Florida looks nothing like what happens in Colorado, which looks nothing like what happens in Maryland or any other state. Some states sell liens, others sell deeds, a few sell redeemable deeds, some are hybrid states. The timelines, redemption periods, interest rates, and even the way the auctions are handled, they vary from state to state and sometimes even county to county. Don't assume that what you learn in one county will carry over to the next. Myth number 5, you don't need to research properties because the county they're not going to sell you junk. This is dangerous thinking. Counties don't care about property values. They only care about collecting the taxes that are owed on that property. I shot a video a while back about a man that bought a little tiny strip of land that he confused for a villa. And folks always comment on that video and they say, well, the county shouldn't have sold it. Well, get this. The county and the county official, whether it's the treasurer or whoever is responsible for it in that specific area, is obligated by law to sell tax delinquent properties. They just can't filter out the bad ones and keep them for themselves and say, you know what, we're not going to sell you junk. They don't have a choice. I've seen landlocked properties that you don't legally have access to. I've seen swampland. I've seen little tiny strips of land. I've seen cliffside parcels. I've seen properties in the middle of nowhere with no roads for miles and miles and miles. They all show up on tax sale lists. If you skip your due diligence because you assume the county wouldn't sell you junk, you are foolish and you deserve to learn a very, very expensive lesson. Research is not optional in this business. Myth number 6. Once I buy a tax deed, I own it free and clear. Yes, technically that is right. However, there are some details people tend to overlook. That does not mean you can immediately go out and sell it like you're used to selling real estate. Most of the time, tax deeds come with a clouded title. In other words, the title to that property is not perfectly clear when it comes to a marketability standpoint. You need to go through a quiet title action, perform a tax foreclosure certification, or get a deed from the former owner and lien holders before it's considered marketable and insurable. Until then, you're going to have trouble getting financing or reselling the property through traditional means. Now, you can always sell it with an as-is title, but the value of that property is going to be diminished. This is something that we really go deep inside a Tax Sale Academy. Sell it both conventionally with title insurance after clearing the title and selling it as is, which is kind of an unconventional method. If you want to learn about that stuff, taxsaleacademy.com. Myth number 7, only wealthy investors can make money with tax defaulted real estate. I love this one because I've seen so many people prove it wrong over the years, including myself. The truth is, you don't need to be rich to get started. There are entry points at every budget level. Tax liens might cost as low as a few $100. Small rural lots can go less than $1,000. I actually write about it in Tax Sale Playbook, but when I started with very, very little money, I started with lots. I even started using credit card loans to get my feet off the ground. I've got Academy members who started with very, very little money as well. It takes a little bit of different approach, takes some patience, takes some strategy, but it's absolutely doable. What matters is not how much money you start off with, but how well you use the money you do have. Strategy and consistency will always be sheer bankroll in the long run. Myth number 8, the county, they'll help me figure everything out. Listen, county staffs are there to run the auction and collect taxes. That is it. They can't and won't advise you on whether a property is valuable, whether it has access, or whether you should even bid on that property. That is not their job. And honestly, if they could give advice, they probably still wouldn't because they don't want the liability for steering investors wrong. The county's not going to help you. They know how to operate the auction. They know what they are supposed to do as the department in charge of the delinquent taxes. But when it comes from the investment side of things, more than likely they have no idea how to advise you, even if they wanted to or they could. The success depends not on the county, not on their willingness to help you. The success depends on you and you alone. Myth number 9. I love this one. My attorney is going to help me. People tell me this all the time. I'll just learn from my attorney. First off, most attorneys are not familiar with tax sale laws and the processes, but the ones that are, they will, for $500 an hour, help you interpret those laws. They will not help you learn how to research. They will not teach you strategy or about 100 of the other things that are required to succeed in this business because, well, your attorney, that's not what they do. They have no idea when it comes to investing in tax defaulted real estate. In fact, I regularly consult with attorneys that contact me. They solicit my advice on behalf of their clients because they don't know what to tell their clients. So, while attorneys can be useful in many regards, they're not going to teach you this business in a way that you can make money with it. Myth number 10, tax liens are guaranteed passive income. I save this one for last because it's another easy sell myth from those late night infomercial days. The reality is this: liens can be a fantastic investment, but they are not guaranteed and they are not truly passive. If the owner pays, great. You get your money back plus interest if you went into that lien correctly. If they don't, you may end up foreclosing. Then foreclosing means you suddenly own a property you have to deal with, which is the exact opposite of passive. Great tool? Absolutely. Guaranteed passive income? Absolutely not. So there you have it, 10 dangerous myths about the tax sale business. Some of these myths will scare new investors away from even getting into the business from the first place. Others will give a false sense of confidence and end up costing people thousands of dollars. Either way, if you believe them, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. The truth is, tax sales can be incredibly rewarding. But you must understand the reality of how they work, and you must take personal responsibility for your success. I truly hope this episode has helped you out. If so, do me a huge favor. Leave me a 5-star review on whatever podcasting platform you're listening on, or click that thumbs up button if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you like more information, make sure you check out my book, Tax Sale Playbook. The book itself is free. Just cover the nominal shipping cost, which is less than the cup of coffee will cost you at Starbucks. You can get that book at taxsalebook.com. Or if you want to take the next step, join us inside Tax Sale headquarters. You can join us at taxsalehq.com, where you can connect with other investors, you can learn, you can grow alongside with us. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.